The Lumix S1II is probably one of the most video capable hybrid cameras out there, and there's also the Pyxis 12K, which is also a fantastic camera. So in this video I want to find out how they both actually compare, what's the image quality look like, dynamic range, color science, and so many more. Coming up. I'm not sure if you have seen already my other reviews concerning the Pyxis 12K. I compared it to my Red Dragon and also did a single review, so maybe worth to check it out. I will link them somewhere here. So I also own the S1II, probably since it came out basically. It's a very fantastic camera, so I wanted to see how they both stack up against each other. So needless to say that these cameras are also vastly different, because the Pyxis is more towards cinematographers and the S1 is more like a hybrid-ish camera. At first glance the Pyxis 12K is worse in rolling shutter. It's about in 12K open gate, I think like 24 milliseconds, something like that. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't shoot in 12K anyway, so I would shoot in 4K or 8K, and in this modes the rolling shutter is around 13 milliseconds. Now the S1 Mark II is, I believe, a little bit lower than that, but it's maybe like 11 or something like that milliseconds. A very good value, and that's nothing to concern about, honestly, in my opinion. Let's also talk about low light capabilities in this instance. So for example, the S1 Mark II is very good when it comes to low light capabilities. The Pyxis 12K is on paper also here worse, but it's a cinema camera and there's no noise reduction whatsoever applied. But the Pyxis 12K has the advantage if you shoot in 12K and then you go into a 4K timeline, then also your noise gets even smaller. And even at 3200 the noise isn't too excessive. So I would consider to be a good result in terms of a cinema camera. Now obviously as a mirrorless camera, the S1II uses some noise reduction internally and going on. So the S1II is better in that regard, yes, but we are not comparing apples to apples here, because the one camera uses noise reduction internally, the other doesn't. Shoot yourself in a lot of conditions where you don't have control or in dim lighting situations, the S1 Mark II is probably the better choice for you. Also in terms of what's the best choice is also the image quality. And first let's talk about the colors here and also like the image rendering characteristics. Now if we look on all of these images here side by side in different situations and scenarios, we see almost a repetitive pattern that the S1 Mark II has kind of a magenta tint or pink tint, however you want to call it, and the Pyxis is more neutral. Personally, I like more what the Pyxis is looking like. I think that Panasonic once had a really great color science with the S1H, but after that all these cameras that were pretty good then in autofocus and stuff like that have like this magenta tint, which I personally don't like because it also affects the skin tones and makes them appear more pink. If we are talking about straight out of cam colors, then obviously the Pyxis is better. And also in regards of codecs and everything like that, Blackmagic RAW is just, I think, a better codec than ProRes RAW. But also many people think like that then 12K is overly sharp. And one thing that I particularly don't like about the Lumix cameras from the S5 Mark II going onwards, which is also the case on the S1 Mark II, is like these over sharpening that the camera applies in camera. That's something that I don't like, and therefore the image appears to be more digital, more video-y like. So that's something that I personally don't like, and we also have that on the S1 Mark II. Whereas the Pyxis, even though it has such a high resolution, it looks detailed, but it doesn't look overly sharp or overcorrected or something like that. So the Pyxis has a more organic filmic look. I hate to say these words, but it's just the best description for it. Now let's talk about dynamic range, and also the S1 Mark II is very surprisingly good in terms of dynamic range, and I have made great results with this camera. I think it was like 8.5 stops in total of exposure latitude, which is basically the same which I got with the Pyxis 12K. Both are very comparable in terms of highlight recovery and in terms of overexposure. In underexposure, the S1II appears to be a little better, but that's also here kind of the issue, that we have a camera that applies internal noise reduction, so it should in theory look a little bit better than the Pyxis. But overall, both cameras are pretty much on the same values. But I feel like, as I've just said, with the overall image quality and like that, I personally prefer the Pyxis more. But that being said, I also had these outdoor tests that I showed you, and I also shot the same thing which I shot with Dragon, where the sky in the background was overly exposed and it doesn't look great on either of these cameras. That's not the point here, but I wanted to see, is there any more detail in any of these cameras? And to my surprise, the S1 Mark II holds highlight details here a little bit better than the Pyxis. If we look closely to the tree and the branches there, you can still figure out the tree branches and something like that in the S1 Mark II, whereas you can't on the Pyxis 12K. So what I've just told you are like studio tests and more outdoor tests and something like that. But being honestly with you, I used the S1 Mark II over the last time vastly on set, and personally when I want to go on set and I want to bring a proper camera with me, a proper A cam, then it would definitely be the Pyxis 12K. The S1 Mark II is a very good camera as a B cam, where you can just running and gunning and make some quick up shots like that. But if you're really serious about your work, I would honestly say that the Pyxis 12K is the better choice. So having worked with both of them on set on many different projects, I'm really blown away of what the Pyxis is going to give you. It's such an insane value and such a high great look out of that camera. I really like it. The colors, the dynamic range, everything is just there where it needs to be. Whereas the Pyxis is more like a camera setup, where you want to work maybe with an easy rig or on tripods and something like that, more like narrative work. If you do a lot of run and gun and something like that, the S1 Mark II is probably the better choice, because it's smaller, it's more lightweight, has IBIS, has autofocus and all these things. But personally, for the type of work that I do and that I love to do, I personally would pick the Pyxis 12K, which doesn't mean that the S1II is a bad camera. It just depends on what your work is going to be. But if you're working more on narrative work or in works where there's a more cinema workflow involved, the Pyxis 12K is obviously the better choice, because also it has things like timecode and everything like that, which the S1 Mark II doesn't, because in the end they are both targeted to different groups of people. But I just wanted to show you how they actually compare. Just tell me in the comments below which one you like more, and I'm happy to chat with you there, and see you in my very next one. Cheers!